Hey everyone, this interviewer's mindset with Michele Asher. There we go. All right. One of my favorite things about doing this podcast is I actually get to meet really interesting people and talk way more before we record than during. So the before would have been a great podcast, but I just hit record now. Michele and I connected. You were actually in a district years ago in Minnesota that I actually came out to speak at, and it was almost a decade ago, so it's been a while.
Right. And I was so inspired that I left um,
Hey,
and
and then
went to my current employer.
after you saw me, you're like, I am out of here. And
I'm
now you
out.
work with, is it Primrose Schools? Is that what, is
Yeah,
that
Primrose
the
Schools.
organization? And so Michele and I actually have a lot in common, really focused on, bringing out the best in kids, but also we have like a shared, connection, just health and wellness. And I think that's something that's really important to me. It's become really important, especially in the last, it's always been important, but like more so in the last 5 years. I think exercise has always been important to me, but actually like not eating horribly is this now. That's like my a little last 5 years. Not all the time. I don't eat well all the time. So Michele actually does a lot of stuff with behavioral programs, which I think kind of a need in education right now. A big conversation. You were a special education teacher. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. I worked in a behavior program for years, working with really intense behaviors of young children and supporting their needs in various ways in an exclusionary program. So they were children who were not functioning in the public school setting. So it's pretty intense, but amazing work. Best
And so,
days.
and so like, tell us a little bit about like kind of how you're working in Stillwater, Stillwater area schools. I think I looked it up. I was there in 2018. I've done a lot of work in Minnesota. It's a wonderful, like some really amazing people there. And one of my favorite events, I'm going to tell you, I remember it to this day. So if anyone from Minnesota, I think it was called Ties at the time. It's called something else. And Innovator's Mindset just came out literally. And I remember like, I think 500 people bought it right after. And I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. And I remember like signing 500 books that day. And I was there for like 3 hours signing books. And that was like the first time I ever talked about Innovator's Mindset. So that is just a really cool thing. So tell me a little bit about kind of like what you're doing today, but actually kind of your pathway to how you got there through some of your career.
Yeah. So currently I'm a senior education consultant at Primrose Schools. Before that, I worked as a special education teacher and behavior specialist for Stillwater Schools. But what really got me into this is my sister has a son who was born with autism. And his first 6 months of life were pretty typical. And he was born the same time that I had my son, my oldest son. And so, but as you watch their milestones month after month, it became pretty obvious that he had delays. And then by 18 months, they were really significant. And so, with his diagnosis and watching her frustration, I grew up in a really small rural community with limited resources, right? And a lot of unknowing. It was basically she was shouldering all this by herself. And so I went back to school to become just really more versed in how do I support her and how do I help him. And so that was the journey of what led me down that path was helping my nephew and my sister on their journey, which then just turned into these amazing relationships you build with families because you become part of their family when they have children who are struggling and they're just deeply struggling, right? And they're shunned. It's either the child is shunned and not wanted in the classroom because of whatever they're doing, whether it's hitting, swearing, physical violence, aggression. The parents become shunned from the community as well, almost as if it's something they're doing, right, or not doing. And so I really seized that opportunity and learned so much through a lot of things I wouldn't do again necessarily, but you learn through trying a lot of different strategies how to help support the children and teach skills, right? It's all about what they don't know how to do yet. And then working with the families to say, hey, like I see you and I know you love them and I know you're trying to do what you think is best in this very moment. Let's partner together and try to come up with something better, right? Let's try to come up with a plan that can support this child and teach skills. And I did that for a long time. I'm an empathetic person. I throw my heart into it. And I was taking every child home with me every day, really just getting worn down, raising my own family and loving the work so much, which is I kept feeling like I should be doing something different, something bigger, something more with everything that was happening. And it led me down the path to working for Primrose Schools, which is based in Atlanta. But it's a nationwide franchising company. And through a series of 7 interviews, and I think it was like 1,200 applicants for the job, I found my way through my first boss who hired me. Her name is Sarah Paul, who is this amazing woman who just gets it. And she's like, we just need a you in our company. We need a you. We need a voice who can talk about children who are struggling, who can talk about adults who are struggling, and do it in a way that's not shaming. It's not blaming. It's, hey, like, let's pause, let's learn more, and let's just try to come up with a way that we can look at this differently, right? We don't have to always blame or shame. And children, I'm like, these children are so small.
Mm.
And they've been on the earth for like 52 months, and we're assuming they're trying to ruin our lives, right? Like, no, that isn't how this works.
Well, when you and I connected, I think one of the things that that really sticks out to me with your personality and kind of your outlook on education and honestly the world is you're very, and maybe I'm making an assumption, just kind of, basically what I'm seeing on social media is you really are looking for the good in everybody. I think that's something that really connects with me. And I will be honest with you, I try to, but it's something I have to be very intentional about because I can find bad stuff real easily. Do you know what I mean? Like it's something I have to train my brain to. And there is a book that it's funny because I could not really tell you much about the book. And it was like, I read the first couple of chapters. I'm like, okay, I'm good. This is all I need from this book. And it was a Malcolm Gladwell book, and it was about David and Goliath. And one of the things that really stuck to me was basically the premise of David and Goliath is David is the underdog and Goliath, and that's why it's such a good story. But then he's like, actually, David was quite nimble. He was good with a slingshot. So what have people have historically looked at as a deficit has actually been a strength. And it actually started kind of waking me up that I'm a very fast talker, and people bring this up all the time. Do you know where fast talkers, and it is like I have been diagnosed with ADHD, and you know where fast talkers really excel? In front of teachers who don't have much of attention span. And like, I get it all the time. Like, your pace, I love your pace because I got to keep up. And one of the things that he said in the book, and I'm just kind of sharing this from memory, is basically a lot of CEOs have dyslexia. And the reason why there's a correlation is that a lot of people with dyslexia have to have a very finite attention to detail, which is a beneficial, strategy for a CEO. And so how do you kind of like, I know that I'm not saying like, hey, kids hitting people, like what's the good in that? I'm not saying that at all. It is, how do you kind of like shift some of the thinking yourself to kind of look for the strength in what many might perceive as the deficit? Because I think there is some power there.
Oh my gosh, that is the power, right? And you're right. It's not easy. I mean, there are days where I'm like, oh my gosh,
You're not
this
just
is,
like me.
well, right. Like sometimes my instant thought is at times when someone comes to me, this isn't even a problem. Like, why do we even think this is a problem? But on my team that I work on now, one of the women I work with is so great at saying to me, Michelle, like the things that you think and say naturally that come to you, that's not anyone else. So I need you to peel back. Like, I need you to peel back and come back to thinking that what you're thinking and seeing is not the perception that a lot of other people have about, say, this behavior or this situation. So part of it is just how you're wired, right? It is, I just choose to think that there's good in motion. And I will say, sometimes just really bad things happen. And there's no good. I don't try to say if something tragic happens, there's this good sunny outline happening. There's not. It's bad. And as we move forward, we can try to do better and find better ways to move forward, right? Yeah, I don't know. I wish I could give you like this magical wand answer. I'd be a bajillionaire if I could. But when I look at children and I see what's happening in classrooms, what I do know is they're telling us something and they need to learn something. And the teachers around us, teachers often feel like they're not successful, which brings out shame or difficulty or blame, instead of us like just switching the script and saying, hey, I'm going to flip the script on this and I'm going to talk about, like, what do you think this child needs to learn? What is one thing you wish they could learn that would make the day better for everyone? And then, okay, what is one thing you as a teacher can do now to help that happen? And then what is one thing I could do if I'm, say, your mentor, your admin, your whatever it is? What's one thing I can do to help you do that, to help the child do that? So I try to play it out like that. Let's start with the child. What could they do? What can you do? What can I do? It's the like, basically release the responsibility, but it's the opposite way. And I think, the more you just let people know, like, it's okay. Do you need to vent? I'll listen. But we have to get out of that, right? We have to decide what's the problem and what can we do.
Actually, I don't know if it's going to make me look really bad. Uh, there are sometimes kids would do really stupid things when I was an administrator.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't yell at them or anything like that, but I'd make them like take ownership, talk it out, and they'd feel guilty and they'd feel horrible. And I actually remember, this is going to make me look so bad. They'd be like crying out of my office, and I'd see like a teacher come by and like, "Oh, you're okay." I'm like, no, let them cry. Like, I actually want them to feel bad. Like, because if you're like, "Hey, no, it's okay," you like punch this kid in the face. No, it's not okay. And you should actually feel horrible. And I again, I would say, like, do you hate that you're crying right now? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, don't do it again. Like, that will actually stop this crying in the future. And I think sometimes it is okay to like just let a kid feel bad about doing something stupid, right? Like, and that's how you correct behaviors, in the end. Am I horrible for saying that right now?
No, you're not horrible.
Okay. I do feel bad because like it did work. Like, because you're like,
okay, but here's the thing. Like, so here's Michelle's spin on this, right? I'm not exactly where you are, but it's how I look at it that's differently. All right. Hitting is not okay. It's a no rule, right? We don't punch people in school. Like, we know that. And so I would have rules that say no punching others. I don't say be kind with your hands or be safe. No, they need to know what a no is. And so that'd be the rule. The rule has now been broken, which means we have to repair it. How do you repair it? You repair it by taking responsibility. If the child is willing to take responsibility through words, that's a great first win. Not I'm sorry. It's what did you do that was wrong? Why did you do that? And what should we do differently next time? Right. And then how can I help you? So like, that's the difference. I don't chase apologies. And I didn't want someone to cry because sometimes they're just crying because they got caught.
Mm-hmm.
Just like
they're crying because they felt bad. That was like,
right. But you know what I'm saying? So you have to get past that. Are you upset because you got caught, or are you upset because of what you did? And like, I'm okay having those conversations with children. Like, if you're just upset because you got caught, I get it. Right. I mean, I'm not going to pretend that's not the reality, especially as the children get older. Right. If you're upset because of what you did, why do you think you did it? How do you think you can make this better? And I think we make a huge mistake. We do this with adults, by the way, more than children, which is interesting. When someone starts crying and they're really upset, oh no, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. Don't cry. It's okay. And I don't do that. Yeah. If someone cries, I may cry with them. I may sit there and not cry at all. I may put my hand on their shoulder if they need it, like whatever they might need. But it's like, you have to give them the space to show them that you trust them enough to handle it. And if I trust them enough to handle crying and big emotions, I trust them enough to change their behavior and meet the expectations, right? So I'm not like wanting them to cry, maybe laugh at them a little bit like you were, haha.
I wasn't laughing.
I know, I'm joking. But like, what I am saying is, like, I would say, don't tell them not to cry. Don't come and console them like this right now. Let them have this moment, because this is the moment they're learning about what accountability, responsibility, and change looks like. So why are you robbing them of this opportunity by saying it's okay, hug?
That made me feel right there.
Okay. How's that?
Because that actually, and I think what I left out, one of the things that was really important to me was I ensured that kid, and like, I used to call families all the time and say, listen, your kid did something really dumb today, and I want you to know that they told me the truth, which I really appreciate. And I would say, like, you and I both did stupid things when we were young too.
Right.
Yeah. And just to remind them and to make sure the kid feel appreciated. But, kind of as you said, I wanted them to feel bad about what they did. And what I really and these are all the things I ever did as an administrator that were really helpful. I would say to a kid, why are you here? Like, why are you here? And I would not say anything. I would not tell them the story, because I think a lot of times when you're like, I heard you did this and you did this, all of a sudden they're focusing more on what you're saying as opposed to what they did. So I'm trying to get them to internalize. And then I would say, what would you do if you were me? That's it. Those are the only two questions I ever had to ask. And they would be way more harsh than anything I would have done. And so as you're saying, you want them to kind of own the behavior, but also own the action to move forward. And so
Mhm.
sometimes when they started to realize that and internalize it, they'd feel bad. I'm like, this is good. We want them to feel bad because then it's less likely to, because I don't want to feel bad, right? So I'm less likely to do that behavior again. So, I feel validated, and I didn't laugh at the kids when they're crying. That's not, that's
Not
not
in
that
the
model.
moment, not in the
But
moment.
I am maybe a little bit of an old school dad too. Like I have that expectation of my own children. So I want them, and it's not because I want to feel crappy. It's because I want them to do well. And I think that's
Okay, that's what I was going to say though. So I really don't think it's driven by wanting someone to feel badly. I don't want anyone to feel badly, but I do want someone to take responsibility and
oh,
accountability for what happened. So, like, I just nuance, like semantics. I would say, so when people like words matter, I teach a lot about this when I do my speaking events. Is words matter. Power of our language is really important with children and with each other. And so, I'm not looking for someone to feel bad about themselves or feel guilt or shame necessarily, but I am looking for you to say, I'm not proud of what I did. I want to take accountability for what I did, and I want to learn about what should I do differently next time, or what can I change, or so it's just semantics. I get that, but I think when you say it the way I'm saying it changes how parents hear the message
oh,
and how they look at their own child. Is I'm not looking for the outcome, which is shame and guilt and feeling terrible and beating yourself up for the next 12 years. No, no, no. Because I know, like, I can think back to a couple episodes in school, and I'm sure you can too, and I'm sure everyone can, of that
I'm
time.
thinking about them right
Yeah, right,
now.
right, right.
Thinking
You're as a
about
teacher, as a student, right? And I'm like, that did not. So I was called a chatterbox in first grade. Okay, at conferences, my teacher called me a chatterbox. Funny, haha. She's right. But I didn't talk for like the next 5 years in school because I was scarred by it. I became so quiet. I was so afraid I was going to get in trouble for talking that I stopped talking literally until high school. I was the most quiet child. And look at me now. You can't shut me up. So I came back full circle, but you're right. Like those are big
yeah.
moments that leave lasting marks.
And I think that's why I tried to say as little as possible to get them to talk. Do you know what I mean? That I
Oh,
think it's kind of like owning it, and that was something important to me. And I wrote about this just the other day. My the school secretary at the time, her name is Frances Agurian, and I remember her saying this. And I know this sounds weird. I love doing the discipline stuff in our school. I did it as assistant principal, and it was like typically that was a role assistant principal. When I became principal, I'm like, nah, I'm still doing it. Like I just love doing it. And she said to me, hey, when you call home, know you're going to destroy this family's day. Like they're going to be destroyed. So make sure they know you care about their kid. And I think that to me was not only important to communicate with the family, but also to the kid that even though they screwed up, like you said, like I would love to say, like I screwed up as a kid, and I've shown, okay, I screw up as an adult all the time. And sometimes I'm like, God, I need to feel like a little bit worse about this too. Right. And like I maybe dwell on stuff a little bit more than I should, but
sure.
I really appreciate that because it's like, yeah, now we're both like feeling guilty for like stuff we've done. So, which is maybe not.
Well, but like the sweet spot is teaching a child to learn accountability, right? Because like if you just there are those who just do whatever they want and they bulldoze people and never feel guilty or remorse or regret. Like
Totally.
that's not okay either. That's why teaching is so important. It's teaching the skill of what does repair, what does accountability look like, and that if you can help a child learn what that feels like and looks like in action versus just by saying I'm sorry, that's how you get to adults who don't just bulldoze and actually not have, because they do exist. I mean, I've been bulldozed myself a few times. And like I think the biggest message too is you're not defined by your like lowest or worst moment. No one is, no matter what. Like in life, we all make mistakes, and there are going to be times that we just wish things would have turned out a different way. But you're robbing yourself of life if we continue to define somebody by that one bad encounter, bad experience.
100%. I could not agree with that more because I think a lot of times I see how I say this to people all the time. If like, and I say this in defense of kids, if your worst 10 minutes were online, I say this to groups all the time, would any of you have a job? And no one has ever put their hand up.
No,
Right.
no.
And it's like, so like maybe just back off a little bit. Cause like we've all done dumb things. Okay. I know I only got a couple minutes left.
Yeah.
One of the things that you really, I feel you're passionate about it. And maybe, I don't know if you're passionate about it, but I feel you're passionate about it from just kind of what I see. And I think, you said we're not defined by like one moment, but I think we're defined by what we do consistently. And I think
Yes.
one of the things that you're really focused on is your health. And I know this is a big conversation going into this year, teachers, really focusing on making sure they take care of themselves. What is like one piece of advice you'd give to someone listening that has benefited you?
Sure. You have to always make time to do something that moves your body, right? It looks different for everyone, but I mean, two things: you need to move your body, and you need to be outside.
Hmm.
The minute, whether like walking outside, even if it's 10 minutes, if I'm teaching in the classroom and I was having like many of those days working with really intense children, I would say I need at least 5 to 10 minutes, and I would go outside and just walk, just pace, walk a lap around the school, whatever it is. And instantly, it's your nervous system just comes back to where it needs to go. It's not perfect, but it's a way. And I think sometimes instead of just pausing for 10 minutes, like 10 minutes only, and just separating, taking a lap, getting some fresh air, and then trying to re-show up for a situation, changes the outcome. It changes the outcome. So in a school setting, I would say give yourself those 5 and 10 minutes before you continually, keep grinding after the same battle when you can. Or when you go home, like don't answer things right away. Give yourself some space to think, think clearly and not react, right? Listen, don't react. And then I believe in yoga. I lift weights. I hike a ton. I love being outdoors. I live in the middle of nowhere in a cabin, and I love it, with animals. And so the more, I could
Right.
encourage people to be outdoors,
Yeah.
and disconnect, put your phone away, put your email away, put it all away, and find time just to be. We have a hard time being. We always want to be connected. We want to, I don't know. It's hard to feel bored, I guess, for lack of a better phrase. But let yourself feel bored a little bit more with no internal inputs or external inputs, and see what happens.
The one I'm going to totally advocate for your advice. When I moved to Florida, this is like 3 years ago, I started walking. I know this sounds weird. I never used to walk my dogs because it was like freezing cold where I lived and whatever. And I would just like open the door, they'd go in the backyard, that kind of thing. But I started walking them when I got here, and they loved it, and they were like excited about it. And now my current dog Suggs loves it. But Jesus, it helped me set the tone for my day. Getting outside first thing in the morning, moving, and it's just like I wake up, kind of like just get some fresh air. So I think that is really kind of, I think 99% of my ideas for books, for blog posts, for stuff have come from when I was running, right, or
Yeah,
walking outside. So I think I know not everyone's going to do yoga, not everyone's going to run. I
yeah,
think both of us would say find something you love that gets you moving, and that would be the
correct.
same, right? So
Yeah.
so
And
hey,
quiet, like away from the inputs. Get away from the inputs, and like let your body do its job.
as
I
I get
used
older, the more I just sit in silence. I don't know if it's a,
Silence is so good.
I don't
Same.
know if it's a good thing. Sometimes I'm like, oh, like man.
No, people wouldn't believe it about you and I. That's what's funny, is because we're both talkers. But no, I can't do this if I don't have that.
It's funny because like sometimes it's in silence because I just can't stand my own voice. So I'm like, I
Right.
cannot listen to me anymore. So anyways, I
Yes.
know you got a meeting, you got work to
Yeah.
do, and thanks for taking time out of your day. Connect with Michelle. You'll see her Instagram down below. But thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I hope you have a wonderful day. Thank you, everyone, for listening.